Love is not found. It is forged. Ethan Carter never remembered Chicago being this cold, but maybe it wasn't the temperature, maybe it was just the aftermath of being dumped through a 7-word text message. We're done. I need someone stable. He read it again as he stood outside his apartment building, the January wind slicing through his coat like it had a personal vendetta. His phone buzzed with another notification, credit card reminder, third notice. He swiped it away before it could sting more. 28 years old, yet his life was somehow both overworked and underbuilt. Financial analyst. Zero savings. Empty fridge. And a mattress on the floor he swore he'd replaced 3 months ago. He was, in every sense, a man surviving on the inertia of bad decisions. A black Toyota pulled up beside him with a soft mechanical purr. The window rolled down. Marcus Kane, his regular rideshare driver, leaned over the wheel, grinning like he had a secret. Rough night, Mr. Carter? Ethan forced a laugh. That obvious? Brother, heartbreak has a smell. You radiating it. Ethan managed a half-smile as he opened the door. Marcus always knew how to get under people's defenses, maybe that's why Ethan tolerated the man's conspiracy theory monologues. Tonight, however, Marcus wasn't joking. His eyes gleamed with the kind of excitement that never meant anything good. Hey, you ever heard of a dating app called Matched? Ethan groaned. Please don't pitch me another crypto project. No, Marcus said quickly. This one's real exclusive. Invite only. Meant for the top 0.01%, politicians, CEOs, models, that level. But someone I know sent me an access link for one candidate. And why would you give it to me? Because you look like a man who's about to do something reckless. Marcus winked. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Ethan didn't have the energy to argue. Marcus airdropped him the link. A sleek black logo flashed on Ethan's screen. Matched. Where destinies are engineered. Engineered? Weird wording. But he was lonely, pissed off, and emotionally dehydrated. He tapped accept invite. The promotion. The elevator to the top floor of Lang & Rowe Financial smelled of expensive cologne, quartz-polished ambition, and money Ethan would probably never afford. Victor Lang, CEO of the Chicago branch, had summoned him without explanation. That alone was insane. Victor was the kind of man people whispered about with both admiration and fear. His tailored suits probably cost more than Ethan's rent. When Ethan stepped inside Victor's massive office, he felt tiny. The city skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, carving dark reflections on the polished marble floor. Victor didn't look up immediately. He signed a document with a fountain pen, clicked the cap shut, and finally turned. Carter, he said smoothly. Sit. Ethan obeyed. Victor regarded him with an expression Ethan didn't understand, part curiosity, part calculation, like a man examining a specimen. You being promoted, Victor said. Ethan blinked. I am? Regional Director for Midwestern Operations. Effective immediately. Ethan's heart thudded. Sir, with respect, I'm not the most senior. I don't reward seniority, I reward potential. Victor slid a folder across the desk. Your contract. It includes a proprietary non-disclosure clause. And a significant salary increase. Ethan opened it. 47 pages of tightly packed legal jargon stared back at him. It's long, he murmured. Victor smiled thinly. Only the paranoid read contracts, Carter. Sign it. Maybe it was the heartbreak fog. Maybe it was the promise of a life he desperately wanted. Maybe it was the strange feeling that this was his only shot at becoming someone. Ethan signed. Without reading a single page. Victor's smile widened just a touch, like a man who had just secured a winning bet. Peninsula Hotel, the rooftop. The invitation arrived an hour later. Private celebration, Peninsula Hotel, rooftop suite. Tonight, 10 p.m. Mandatory appearance. Mandatory? Weird. But he showed up. Security escorted him through velvet ropes and mirrored hallways until he emerged into an opulent rooftop lounge overlooking the Chicago skyline. Only 6 people were present. And in the center, wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit and sipping whiskey like he'd invented it, stood Dr. Julian Voss. Ethan recognized him instantly. Voss was everywhere: TED Talks, best-selling books, corporate seminars. The behavioral architect who claimed he could predict emotional bonds with frightening accuracy. Social media worshipped him. Wall Street praised him. Governments secretly consulted him. He turned when Ethan entered. Their eyes met. And Voss smiled with unsettling warmth. "Mr. Carter," he said, extending a hand. "I've been eager to meet you." Ethan shook it. The man's grip was ice cold. "I didn't know you'd be here, Dr. Voss." "Please," Voss chuckled. "Call me V." He held onto Ethan's hand a moment too long, studying him. "You have a fascinating psychological profile." "Do?" "A man who craves connection yet fears it. Who wants to be chosen, but never chooses himself." Voss leaned closer. "Those like you are rare. And extremely valuable." Ethan's pulse stuttered. "Valuable for what?" Voss didn't answer. Instead, he clinked his glass against Ethan's untouched champagne. "To destiny." Ethan barely had time to process the words before a headache suddenly throbbed behind his eyes. The room tilted. His vision blurred. Something's wrong. He stumbled toward the exit, heart hammering. Voss watched, unmoving, expression unreadable. Chicago, the abduction. Marcus's car was already waiting outside. Ethan collapsed into the back seat. "Drive, something's wrong." Marcus didn't turn around. "You'll be fine, brother. Just breathe." Ethan grabbed for the door, but the child lock clicked. Marcus's voice softened almost affectionately. "I'm sorry, Ethan. Truly. But you were chosen." The air filled with a faint chemical smell. Ethan clawed at his throat as darkness swallowed him whole. London, Riley Harper. Halfway across the world, Riley Harper was having the best night of her career. London's High Court had finally ruled in favor of her client, a wrongly accused immigrant whose case she'd fought tooth and nail. Reporters praised her brilliance. Her name was trending. She pushed through the crowd, stone-faced and cool as ever. "Riley." "Dinner, tonight," Olivia Shaw insisted, looping her arm around her. "My treat. You deserve to celebrate." Riley gave a rare small smile. "Fine. 1 hour. Then I'm going home." The restaurant Olivia chose was private, candlelit, too luxurious for a casual dinner. Riley found that odd, but exhaustion dulled her suspicion. They ordered wine. Riley took a sip. The glass slipped from her hand. "Olivia," she whispered as the room tilted violently. Olivia's smile did not reach her eyes. "You were chosen too." Darkness crashed over Riley like a wave. Scotland, the awakening. Ethan woke first. He was lying on a steel floor so cold it numbed his spine. A thin hospital gown clung to his skin. The air smelled of disinfectant, metal, and something faintly electric. He sat up slowly. He was in a massive subterranean chamber, 20 meters wide, maybe more. Seamless steel walls. Harsh white ceiling lights. And one entire side was a floor-to-ceiling mirror. But he knew it wasn't a mirror. It was a one-way observation panel. "Hello," his voice cracked. "Is anyone?" A soft groan from behind him. Ethan spun around. A woman lay on the ground, wrists scraped from struggling, dark hair fanned across the metallic floor. Even half-conscious, she radiated an icy, intimidating presence. Riley Harper opened her eyes. And panic flared in them instantly. "Where the hell are we?" she demanded. "I don't know," Ethan stammered. "I woke up here too." "Are you hurt?" She pushed herself upright, ignoring him as she scanned the room with razor-sharp calculation. Temperature's artificial, she muttered. Cameras in every corner. Ventilation timed. We are underground. Then she looked at him properly. Who are you? Ethan. Ethan Carter. He swallowed. And you? Riley Harper. Criminal defense attorney. She moved toward the observation glass. They are watching us. As if on cue, the lights shifted to a colder hue. A hidden speaker crackled. And a voice echoed through the chamber. Smooth. Calm. Unsettlingly familiar. Welcome, participants. I'm delighted to see you both awake. Ethan's blood ran cold. It was a voice he had heard hours earlier. Dr. Julian Voss. Don't panic, Voss continued, sounding almost amused. You two have been selected for the world's most ambitious psychological experiment. Riley clenched her fists. Let us out. Riley, Voss chuckled softly. Control is a luxury no longer available to either of you. A metallic hatch in the floor slid open with a hiss. A table rose. On it, two metal wristbands, a knife, a folded note, and something else Ethan couldn't identify. Voss's voice softened to a whisper, dripping with anticipation. The trials begin now. Riley looked at Ethan. Ethan looked back. And the temperature suddenly felt far, far colder than 16 degrees Celsius. The table finished rising from the floor with a metallic click that echoed through the underground chamber like a countdown beginning. Ethan stared at the objects on it, 2 wristbands, a note, a gleaming surgical knife, while Riley studied them with the unblinking intensity of someone who had already decided she'd rather fight than die confused. The speaker crackled again. Please equip the wristbands, Dr. Voss instructed, voice maddeningly calm. They monitor your cortisol spikes, heart sync, micro-expressions, everything that makes you human. Ethan lifted one wristband. It was heavier than it looked, made of dense black alloy, humming faintly like a sleeping creature. He met Riley's eyes. We don't have a choice, he said quietly. We never did, Riley murmured. They fastened the bands. Instantly, they constricted, snapping tight with a cold bite, embedding into the skin so seamlessly they looked surgically installed. Ethan flinched. Riley didn't. The lights above them dimmed to a blue-tinged gloom. Trial 1, a selfishness, Voss announced. A second hatch slid open. A stainless steel platform rose, placing the note directly between them. Riley unfolded it. Choose who loses a finger. If no choice is made in 60 seconds, both participants lose 2 fingers each. Ethan's breath knotted in his throat. What? A timer lit up on the wall, 0:59. Riley's jaw tightened. They're pushing us into a dominance hierarchy immediately. The knife glinted under the lights. We're not doing this, Ethan said. We can't. Riley grabbed the knife. Ethan recoiled. Riley! She didn't hesitate. She placed her left hand on the platform. And without a tremor, without a single crack in her icy composure, she sliced off her own little finger. Ethan screamed. The sound ripped from him involuntarily as blood spluttered across the steel and Riley's breath hitched, only once, before she clenched her teeth and straightened. The timer hit 0:41. She dropped the knife. There, she said through shallow breaths. Now you won't have to choose. Ethan stared at her, horrified. Awed. Shaking. Why would you? Because I don't trust you yet, she answered flatly. And I know how guilt destroys men like you. This way, you can't blame yourself later. The speaker clicked. Well done, Voss purred. Control of pain is the foundation of attachment. Proceed. A panel opened. A compressed mist hissed onto Riley's hand, instant anesthetic. The bleeding stopped almost magically. Ethan felt sick. Trial 2, a mercy. The room transformed. Walls slid back like mechanical ribs opening, revealing a new space, larger, colder, lit by harsh overhead lamps that buzzed like angry insects. Suspended from the ceiling by metal hooks was a man, gagged, upside down, his skin purpled from lack of circulation. A digital clock on his chest blinked. For a clock, oxygen remaining. Beneath him, a vat of transparent liquid labeled hydrofluoric acid. A pulley system connected the man's body to two thick ropes on opposite sides of the room. Voss explained. To save this man, you must both pull your ropes simultaneously. Let go, and the acid releases, onto the other participant's face. Riley swore under her breath. He wants mutual dependency. Begin, Voss said. The timer started. They each grabbed a rope. The tension was immediate, like trying to drag a car through mud. Ethan's muscles screamed in protest. Riley pulled with her dominant hand, her injured one clamped uselessly at her side. Harder, she commanded. I'm trying. Ethan gasped. The suspended man choked behind the gag. 2:31. Ethan's palms tore open. Warm blood slicked over the rope. Riley's arm trembled violently. Don't you dare drop it, she hissed. I'm not, I won't. The man's body lowered inch by inch away from death. The pulley groaned. Ethan's vision blurred. Riley's breath became ragged, feral. She was biting her tongue so hard that a thin trickle of blood ran down her jawline. 0:14. They screamed, not from fear, not from pain, but from the animal instinct to survive together. Midnight. The oxygen tank clicked. The man's gag released. He fell to the floor, gasping. Lights reset. Voss's applauding voice filled the chamber. Beautiful. You saved him. Admirable, but pointless. Riley spat blood. What do you mean, pointless? The prisoner stood up calmly and removed a latex prosthetic from his face. An actor. A prop. A measurement tool. Ethan nearly vomited. You measured willingness to sacrifice, Riley said slowly, dangerously. And compatibility, Voss replied. Your pain responses are beginning to synchronize. Promising. Ethan glared at the observation glass. You're insane. No, Voss said softly. I am a scientist. Trial 3, a pain transfer. They were led, by remotely rotating walls, into a smaller chamber containing two metal chairs bolted to the floor. Thick restraints waited like hungry serpents. A control tablet rested on a podium between the chairs. Vossi's voice floated in. This round is simple. Sit. Endure. One button transfers the entire electrical charge to the other participant. Ethan froze. What charge? The chairs powered on with a deep bass hum. Electricity crackled. A counter on the screen read, 80,000 V. Riley exhaled slowly. He wants us to choose who suffers. No, Ethan said. He wants to see if we'll let the other suffer. Riley surprised him by sitting first. You're braver, Ethan whispered. No, Riley met his eyes. I'm more practiced. He swallowed and sat too. The restraints locked them in. And then? Agony. Pure, white-hot, body-shattering agony. Electricity surged through their bones, their teeth, their marrow. Ethan convulsed so hard he thought his spine might snap. Riley arched against the restraints, her scream strangled into silence. The tablet blinked. Transfer pain, Ethan Riley. Transfer pain, Riley Ethan. Ethan slammed his head back, trying not to black out. Don't hit the button. I wasn't going to, she gasped. Another wave hit. Their screams mixed into something raw and inhuman. Ethan passed out. Then woke. Then passed out again. He had no idea how many cycles happened, only that at one point Riley shouted his name, voice shredded. Ethan, don't let them break you. He used the last scrap of his will to shout back. "I won't, if you don't." The electricity cut. Both slumped forward, smoke rising from their skin. Voss sighed like a proud father. "You endured 7 cycles without betraying each other. Astonishing. Your attachment is deepening beautifully." Riley spat onto the floor. It was pink with blood. "Burn in hell." "Riley," Voss said warmly, "I grew up there. Trial 4, a kin killer." The walls separated them. Riley was shoved into a new room, Ethan into another. For the first time, they were isolated. Ethan blinked until the blur cleared. Someone was tied to a chair in front of him. An older man. Head covered with a cloth bag. The voice on the speaker said, "Ethan Carter, meet your father." Ethan's heart stopped. "No," he whispered. "He died when I was 16. We know. This is a replacement, an actor. But his DNA is matched. His appearance engineered. Your emotional reaction will be identical." The man lifted his head weakly. "Ethan," he croaked through the gag. Ethan staggered back. His legs trembled. In Riley's chamber, an older woman sat tied to her chair, matching Riley's mother so perfectly it froze Riley's breath mid-chest. Voss's rule echoed through both speakers. "You each have a revolver. You will eliminate the figure before you. If either participant hesitates longer than 8 seconds, the other participant dies." A slot opened. A gun slid out. Ethan stared at it. "No," he whispered. "No, please." Riley gripped her own gun, knuckles white. Voss's countdown began. 8. Ethan sobbed. 7. Riley's pulse slowed to a terrifying calm. 6. "Riley!" Ethan screamed through the wall, not knowing if she could hear him. "Don't." 5. In Riley's room, the woman whispered, "Riley, baby." Riley closed her eyes. 4. Ethan raised the gun with shaking hands. 3. Riley lifted hers, steady as steel. 2. Ethan cried, "I'm sorry." 1. 2 gunshots erupted simultaneously. 2 bodies slumped, blood blooming across the cold floor. Ethan collapsed to his knees. Riley didn't move at all. Her expression was carved from stone. The wall slid open between them. Ethan looked up at her, shattered. "They weren't real," Riley said quietly. "They weren't ours." "That doesn't matter," Ethan whispered. "We still killed them." Riley's voice softened, barely audible. "Yes. We did." The speaker crackled. Voss sounded euphoric. "You have both committed irreversible violence for the perceived protection of the other. Your bond is now chemically, psychologically, and behaviorally entwined." The floor lit with a soft red glow. "Prepare," Voss said. "For the final trial." Riley helped Ethan to his feet. Her hand lingered on his arm 1 second longer than necessary. Not affection. Recognition. Survival. Connection born in blood. Only one of you leaves alive. The red glow beneath their feet pulsed like a beating heart, slow at first, then faster, until it matched the rhythm of their own throbbing pulse. The steel walls rattled as hidden gears shifted, reshaping the chamber around them. Ethan and Riley stood side by side, trembling but upright, blood dried on their hands, faces bruised, bodies humming with the ghost of electricity. Their wristbands glowed crimson. The lights went out. Total darkness. Then a single spotlight snapped on above them, illuminating a square pedestal rising from the floor. Atop it lay a gun. Black. Sleek. A single bullet resting beside it like a ritual offering. The observation glass flickered to life. And Dr. Julian Voss appeared. He wasn't wearing a suit anymore. He wore a long black coat, buttoned to the throat, the kind of garment priests wore during funerals. His smile was serene. Congratulations, Voss said. You've survived all 4 trials. You've demonstrated pain tolerance, reciprocal altruism, self-sacrifice, moral corruption, guilt-binding, and codependent resilience. He leaned closer to the glass. Now comes the last step. Riley tensed. Ethan's breath turned shallow. Voss gestured to the gun. The final match. A hatch opened high above them. The metallic hiss that followed was unmistakable, the sound of a chemical system being armed. Above your chamber is a reservoir of white phosphorus. If activated, the temperature will rise to over 800 degrees Celsius. Burning flesh. Bone. Organ. Nothing survives. Riley's voice was ice. You're a monster. No, Voss corrected gently. I'm a creator. He clasped his hands behind his back, almost fatherly. The rule is simple. One of you leaves this place. The other dies. The bullet shimmered under the light. You must decide, Voss said. Or the system decides for you, by killing both. Ethan stepped forward instinctively. No. We're not doing this. Ethan, Riley whispered, don't. But Voss only smiled, delighted. You'd be amazed how often people surprise themselves. Even the strongest break when forced to choose love or death. Riley's jaw clenched. She stepped closer to Ethan. I'm not letting you die for me, she said. And I'm not letting you die for me, Ethan replied, voice shaking. Voss's tone grew soft, hypnotic. One of you already sacrificed a finger. One endured more pain. One pulled the trigger first. One hesitated less. One gave more emotionally. So the solution is obvious. Riley whispered, don't listen to him. But Voss's words slithered into Ethan's mind like smoke. Ethan Carter, Voss murmured, you have always been the one willing to die. You crave meaning so desperately you would bleed out just to give your death purpose. Ethan's vision tunneled. Pick up the gun, Voss said gently. Riley stepped in front of Ethan. Back. Off. But Ethan was barely hearing her anymore. His fingers moved on their own as he approached the pedestal. Riley grabbed his wrist. Ethan. Stop. He looked at her. Tear-filled, exhausted, broken. Riley, this isn't a life. They'll never stop chasing us. You know that. I don't care, she whispered fiercely. You don't get to die on me. Ethan smiled, small, sad, unbearably gentle. I'm not dying on you. I'm dying for you. He picked up the gun. Riley's breath shattered. Don't you dare. Ethan held her face in his bloody hands. You've saved me every step. Let me save you once. He pressed his forehead to hers. Riley. I'm yours. Then he pulled away. And lifted the gun to his own chin. Riley screamed. The sound raw. Animal. Desperate. Ethan pulled the trigger. Click. No bullet. The chamber went silent. Riley stared in horror. Ethan lowered the gun, confusion spreading across his face. Then Voss began to clap. Slow. Mocking. Satisfied. Perfect, he said softly. Absolutely perfect. The purest form of attachment, irrational sacrifice. Riley's breath came in ragged gasps. You, sick. Voss raised a hand for silence. You have achieved what 723 previous pairs failed to attain. You too are the culmination of years of research. He gestured at the glass. The phosphorus chamber is disabled. You may step forward. A steel door hissed open behind him. Come, Voss said, smiling like a proud parent. Let me greet you properly. Ethan looked at Riley. Something changed in his eyes. A coldness. A decision. A clarity that hadn't been there before. He walked toward the observation glass. Slow. Calm. Riley followed, sensing something dangerous bleeding off him. Voss opened the final door and stepped into the chamber from the opposite side, followed by 6 masked guards. Ethan, Voss said warmly, your devotion is immaculate. Your death impulse, your emotional calculus, so pure, so predictable. Ethan didn't speak. He just approached. Come, Voss said. Let me. Ethan moved faster than anyone expected. He grabbed the gun, swung it like a hammer, and struck Voss in the skull with the full force of every trial, every wound, every scream. A sickening crack echoed. Voss collapsed instantly. Ethan didn't stop. He hit him again. And again. And again. Until the gun broke. Until Voss's skull ruptured like wet plaster. Until blood splattered the walls, the masks of the guards, Riley's hospital gown. Silence fell like a guillotine. The guards did not move. Could not move. Because at that moment, all 6 of their wrist monitors blinked. Riley saw it first. The contract Ethan had signed. The clause embedded in page 32. The one Damien Cross had crafted for Voss. All acts of violence committed in defense of the bonded partner shall be legally immunized and contractual protected. The guards stared at the clause displayed on their wrist screens. If they touched Ethan, they would be violating the contract. If they violated the contract, Roman Volkov, the billionaire funding this operation, would come for them. And Roman Volkov feared only one man. Julian Voss, who was now a puddle of red on the floor. Ethan stood, panting, covered in blood, shaking with adrenaline so violently his body looked like it was vibrating. He turned to Riley. "We're leaving," he said, voice ragged and low. Riley stepped to his side without hesitation. Ethan reached out. She took his hand. The guards parted, silent, rigid, terrified. A steel door opened automatically as they approached, as if the entire facility recognized them as the new apex predators. They ascended a rusted staircase. An emergency hatch blew open. Cold Scottish wind slammed into their faces, the kind of cold that burned clean through the grime and blood and terror. Above them stretched an endless grey sky, dark clouds rolling over bleak highlands. Ethan's breath trembled. Riley squeezed his hand once, grounding him. "We're free," she whispered. "For real this time." For the first time since waking in the steel chamber, Ethan let out a jagged laugh. Painful. Disbelieving. Alive. They walked into the wind. 2 ghosts crawling out of hell. Epilogue, 6 years later. The cottage was small. Warm. Walls lined with books Riley pretended she didn't read at night. A fireplace crackled with soft amber light. Ethan sat on the floor with a little girl asleep in his lap, dark curls, Riley's steel blue eyes. He stroked her hair gently, humming a lullaby he didn't remember learning. Riley leaned against the doorway, watching them with a softness she showed only to him. "You'll fall asleep like that," she murmured. "Maybe I want to," Ethan whispered. They put their daughter to bed. Riley closed the door. And then, a crackle in the night. A faint thrum, like electricity across the nerves. Riley's breath hitched. Her hand trembled. Ethan instantly wrapped his arms around her from behind, pressing his forehead to her shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. "Just a memory." She swallowed hard. "Sometimes I still feel the voltage." "I know." He held her tighter. "But it's over. We're still here. We survived." Riley closed her